I wake up each morning with the weight of the world sitting squarely on my chest, even before my feet touch the floor. It's not just a feeling of tiredness or the usual grind of adulting, it's something deeper, something that gnaws at me quietly but persistently, the relentless pressure of money, or more accurately, the lack of it. I'm 27, supposedly young, with a life ahead that should feel full of possibility, but instead, I'm caught in this grinding loop where expenses stretch further and further, and my income stubbornly refuses to keep pace. The numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. Rent goes up again, even though the apartment is still the same creaky, drafty place I moved into 2 years ago. Groceries cost more, gas prices jump overnight, and utilities seem to spike with every passing month. Every bill feels like a countdown, and the moment I pay one, I'm already behind on another. I remember when I first started this job, thinking I had it figured out. The paycheck was small but steady, and I was optimistic. I believed that if I worked hard, saved carefully, maybe one day I could afford a better place, a little stability, maybe even start thinking about the future. But that day keeps getting pushed further away. The economic environment we live in isn't just numbers on paper, it's the invisible hand tightening around my daily life. I can feel it in every choice I make. Should I splurge on a coffee or just wait until I'm home to make tea? Do I fix that leaky faucet now or hope it holds until next month? Should I say yes to the friend's invitation for dinner or politely decline because I can't afford even a modest meal out? These are the small, seemingly trivial decisions that stack up and become this exhausting mental ledger I carry all day. Sometimes, it feels like I'm trapped in a system designed to keep people like me just barely afloat. I watch the news and see inflation numbers climbing, wages barely moving, housing markets booming beyond reach. I know I'm not alone in this, my friends are stretched thin, too, many juggling multiple jobs or side gigs just to make ends meet. But knowing others share the burden doesn't ease the loneliness I feel when I have to say no, again, to something I want or need. It feels like a quiet defeat every time I have to prioritize bills over mental health, or groceries over a bus ticket to visit family. Emotionally, it's draining. There are days I'm overwhelmed by anxiety, feeling like I'm constantly one unexpected expense away from disaster. I lie awake at night calculating and recalculating my budget, the stress tightening my chest until I'm gasping for air in the dark. Sometimes the anxiety manifests as exhaustion, a heavy fog that dulls my motivation and steals my hope. I try to stay positive, tell myself this is temporary, but the reality is that the cycle has been going on for years, and I'm not sure where the light at the end of the tunnel is anymore. Coping has become an art form of survival. I've learned to find little moments of joy that cost nothing, a walk in the park, a deep breath of fresh air, a text from a friend that reminds me I'm not invisible. I've cut out all non-essential spending, which means no new clothes, no weekend getaways, no hobbies that require spending money. I cook at home more than ever, sometimes eating the same thing for days because it's cheaper. I've even started turning down social events to avoid the pressure of spending money I don't have. It's lonely, but it's necessary. What hurts most is the dreams I've had to postpone. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city and its gray skyline. I dreamed of buying a little house, planting a garden, building something stable and lasting. I wanted to start saving for retirement, for emergencies, for someday. But all those plans feel like distant stars, beautiful, shining, but out of reach. I keep pushing them further into the future because today, I can't justify anything beyond paying rent, keeping the lights on, and putting food on the table. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm not working hard enough or managing my money properly. But the truth is, I'm doing all I can, and the system just isn't designed for people like me to thrive. It's designed to squeeze as much as possible from every paycheck while pushing costs ever higher. And while I'm not naive enough to expect everything to be handed to me, I do wish there was some breathing room, some space to breathe, to dream, to live without constantly feeling like I'm drowning. I don't want pity. I don't want charity. I want recognition that this struggle is real, that financial pressure isn't just a personal failure but a reflection of the system around us. I want policies that make housing affordable, wages that keep pace with living costs, and support for those caught in this tightening vice. For now, I keep going. I keep holding on to the smallest glimmers of hope, even if they're faint and flickering. I keep reminding myself that this isn't the whole story, that I'm more than my bank balance or my rent check. I'm still dreaming, even if those dreams have been paused. And maybe, someday, when the pressure eases just a little, I'll start chasing them again. Until then, I'm here, doing my best, trying to survive and maybe, somehow, still live. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd find myself living like this, constantly watching every cent, feeling like I'm sinking deeper in quicksand, no matter how fast I struggle to climb out. I'm 27, working a full-time job that pays just enough to cover the basics but never quite enough to feel stable. Every month is a battle against rising costs, rent, groceries, utilities, the car, and every little unexpected bill that feels like a punch to the gut. It's exhausting, and some days I wonder if it's even worth it. When I first graduated, I had dreams. Big ones. I imagined traveling, maybe going back to school for something I loved, saving for a place of my own someday, not just sharing a cramped apartment with roommates whose lives seemed more together than mine. But those dreams feel like they're slipping through my fingers, lost to an economic reality that's harsher than anything I was prepared for. The hardest part is that everything seems to be getting more expensive at a pace my income can't keep up with. My paycheck grows a little each year, sure, but rent rises faster, groceries cost more, and utilities keep creeping up. I'm stuck trying to balance it all, and somehow there's never enough left over for anything extra. I can't help but feel trapped. Like the system is designed to keep people like me on a hamster wheel, running but never moving forward. I start every day with this sinking feeling. I wake up and my first thought isn't about what I'm excited to do, but about the bills. What's due this week? Do I have enough for groceries? Can I squeeze one more week out of these old shoes? It's a cloud hanging over me, heavy and constant. It's exhausting not just physically but mentally. I find myself withdrawing from friends, skipping social events because even small expenses add up. Going out for a drink, grabbing dinner, or even just hopping on public transit can feel like a luxury I can't afford. Sometimes, I try to stay positive. I tell myself it's just a phase, that things will get better, but the truth is I'm scared. Scared of getting stuck forever. I watch my friends start families, buy homes, pursue passions, and it feels like I'm invisible to that life. I want to believe my time will come, but each month that passes without progress chips away at that hope. Coping has become an art form. I've gotten creative with budgeting, meal prepping, hunting for sales, cutting out everything that isn't absolutely necessary. I've even started picking up odd side gigs when I can, just to patch holes in the budget, but it's a double-edged sword because that leaves me drained and with less time for myself or anything that feels like fun or rest. I feel guilty when I spend on myself, even if it's something small that would normally make me happy, a book, a coffee, a movie ticket. I second-guess every purchase. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if I'll ever break free. What does that freedom even look like? Is it owning a home, having a steady emergency fund, feeling secure in a job that pays well? Or is it just a day where I don't feel anxious about money? I don't have all the answers, but I know I'm tired of living with this constant pressure, this feeling that no matter what I do, I'm always one step behind. What hurts most is that this isn't just about numbers. It's about self-worth and dignity. When you're always stressed about money, it seeps into every part of your life, your confidence, your relationships, your dreams. I sometimes catch myself thinking I'm not smart enough or not hardworking enough, even though I know deep down that the system is stacked against people like me. I miss the days when I could dream without a calculator in my head. When I believed I could do anything if I just worked hard enough. Now, I'm learning that hard work alone isn't always enough. I need luck, connections, timing, things that feel out of reach when you're stuck just trying to survive. But I'm holding on to hope. Not the flashy kind, but a quiet, stubborn hope that maybe someday I'll find a way to build a life where I'm not just surviving but living. Maybe that means going back to school part-time, switching careers, or saving enough to finally move into a place that feels like home. Maybe it means learning to be kind to myself, even when the world isn't. I'm telling this story because I know I'm not alone. There are so many young people like me feeling trapped by rising expenses and stagnant wages, watching their dreams get pushed further and further away. It's hard to admit, but it's the truth. And maybe if we talk about it more, we can start to find a way out, together. For now, I'll keep moving forward, one paycheck at a time, trying to find little moments of joy in the chaos. Because even in the midst of all this pressure, I still believe that better days are possible. They have to be. Otherwise, what's the point? I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm sinking but can't even grasp a lifeline. Every morning I wake up with this weight on my chest, like the air itself is thicker and harder to breathe. It's not just the usual stress about work or deadlines. It's something deeper. Something that creeps into every choice I make, every thought I have, like an invisible chain holding me in place while the world around me races forward. I'm 27 now, and for the last few years, money has been the background hum of my life, but lately, it's gotten louder, sharper. Like a constant buzzing that won't go away no matter what I do. I work full-time, sometimes more than full-time, but the paycheck barely stretches to cover rent, groceries, utilities, and the ever-growing list of expenses that somehow always seem to pile up faster than I can handle. The cost of living keeps climbing, but my salary? It feels like it's stuck on repeat, the same number every month, even as the prices around me rise relentlessly. I remember when I moved out of my parents' house, full of hope and excitement. I wanted to make a space that was mine, a small sanctuary where I could breathe and grow. But the reality hit me hard. Rent was higher than I expected, utilities were unpredictable, and then there were those random expenses, broken appliances, car repairs, medical bills, that sneaked up like unwelcome guests. I started budgeting carefully, tracking every penny. But it was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole at the bottom. No matter how tightly I gripped, the money just slipped through. Groceries are a daily struggle. I find myself in the store, staring at shelves, picking the cheaper options, skipping fresh veggies for canned ones, sometimes even opting for instant meals because they're affordable. But I know it's not just about food. It's about the choices I make with my life. I can't afford to take a day off to rest because sick days are unpaid or limited. I don't go out with friends anymore because the cost of a single night out could cover a week's worth of my groceries. I postponed doctor's visits, ignored minor health issues, because the co-payments feel like luxuries I simply can't afford. There's a gnawing feeling of being trapped in a system that doesn't seem designed for someone like me. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every few months while my legs grow heavier. The bills keep coming, the rent goes up, the insurance premiums rise, but my income feels like a stagnant pond. I try to save, but it's a joke. If I manage to stash away even a small amount, an emergency wipes it clean before I even get a chance to breathe. I've watched friends buy cars, go on vacations, start families. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in this loop, struggling to keep my head above water. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There are days when I feel ashamed, like I'm failing somehow because I can't make it work. I've caught myself hiding receipts from my family or pretending everything is fine when they ask how I'm doing. I'm tired of the embarrassment, the constant worry, the feeling that I'm one paycheck away from disaster. Anxiety has become a quiet companion, sitting with me in the quiet moments, reminding me of every financial misstep or future uncertainty. Coping has become a skill I've had to develop. I talk to a few close friends who understand, or at least try to. Sometimes I journal, writing out the frustrations and fears that swirl inside. Other times, I retreat into small escapes, watching movies, reading, walking aimlessly through the city streets, anything to distract myself from the relentless pressure. But even those moments feel fleeting, temporary patches on a wound that never quite heals. The dreams I once had feel distant now. I wanted to travel, see the world, experience new cultures. I dreamed of going back to school for something I'm passionate about, maybe art or writing. I imagined owning a little place someday, a home where I could invite people without worrying about noise or mess or extra costs. But those dreams have been pushed to the back burner, replaced by survival mode. I tell myself, maybe next year. Maybe when things get better. But deep down, I wonder if better is just a mirage. Still, there's a small flicker of hope. I hold on to the belief that this isn't permanent, that somehow, I'll find a way out. I'm trying to build skills, network, and stay open to opportunities, even if they feel few and far between. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, acknowledging that this struggle isn't a reflection of my worth. That maybe, just maybe, the system is broken, not me. It's hard to describe the mix of frustration and resilience, despair and hope. I'm caught in a cycle that wears me down, but it also pushes me to find strength I didn't know I had. I'm learning that sometimes, just surviving is an act of courage. So here I am, trying to keep going, day by day, paycheck by paycheck, dream by postponed dream. Hoping that someday soon, the weight will lift, and I can breathe freely again, not just in moments, but for good. Until then, I'm holding on, telling myself that I'm more than my financial struggles, more than this invisible chain, and that my story isn't over yet. I never imagined my 20s would feel like a never-ending balancing act, one where every decision, every small choice, is weighed against a backdrop of constant financial pressure. It's as if I'm walking on a tightrope stretched thin between hope and anxiety, and no matter how carefully I tread, the ground below keeps shifting. I want to tell you about what it's like, being caught in a system where expenses grow faster than my paycheck ever can, where dreams become distant mirages, and the weight of uncertainty settles deep in my chest. When I graduated from college, I was full of energy and optimism. I thought I was stepping into a world full of possibilities. But reality hit hard and fast. The job I landed was decent, but the salary barely covered rent and essentials, let alone anything extra. At first, I told myself it was temporary, a stepping stone. I cut back on everything, bought second-hand clothes, and made instant noodles my dinner companion more often than I care to admit. I kept my head down, believing that if I just worked hard enough, things would improve. But every month feels like a race against rising costs. Rent went up again last year, which means my already tight budget became tighter. Utilities, groceries, transportation, all climbing steadily. Meanwhile, my income has barely budged. The slow increments in my paycheck feel almost mocking, like they're outpaced by inflation's relentless march. I try to remind myself that this isn't personal, it's a system designed to keep people like me just afloat, never quite free. There's a subtle kind of despair that creeps in when you're constantly making sacrifices you never imagined having to make. The small joys that others take for granted, going out with friends, a spontaneous weekend trip, even buying a book, feel like luxuries I can't afford. I remember a time when I dreamed of traveling, seeing new places, meeting new people. Now, even a weekend getaway feels like a distant fantasy. I push those dreams to the back of my mind because there's no room for them in my current reality. Financial pressure doesn't just touch my bank account, it creeps into my emotional well-being. The constant worry about bills keeps me up at night. I try to stay positive, but there are moments when I feel trapped, like I'm running in place but sinking deeper into quicksand. Social media doesn't help, everyone seems to be living these perfect lives, posting pictures from exotic vacations or showcasing their new gadgets. It's hard not to compare, to feel like I'm falling behind while the world moves forward without me. Some days, the weight of it all is overwhelming. I've felt tears welling up in quiet moments, frustration, exhaustion, the sting of loneliness. It's hard to admit, even to myself, how deeply this pressure affects me. I'm supposed to be an adult, but sometimes I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Asking for help feels like admitting defeat, so I keep it inside, hoping the storm will pass. But amidst the struggle, I find small ways to cope. I've learned to celebrate tiny victories, managing to save a few dollars, cooking a new recipe at home, or just making it through a tough day without breaking down. I lean on friends when I can, even if it's just to vent. Music and writing become my escape, a way to process feelings that don't have easy answers. I try to remind myself that this chapter won't last forever, even if it feels endless right now. The most painful part is knowing that so many of my plans have been put on hold. Buying a car, moving to a better apartment, even thinking about further education, all of it feels like a distant horizon. I've learned to dream smaller, to find hope in the possibility of stability rather than luxury. Still, I hold on to those bigger dreams, like fragile flames I'm trying not to let go out. I hope for a future where I don't have to choose between necessities and small joys. Where I can wake up without the crushing weight of financial stress. Where I can invest in myself without fear, where progress isn't a slow crawl but a steady climb. Maybe one day I'll look back on these years and see how they shaped me, but right now, it's hard not to feel stuck. This is my reality, raw, vulnerable, and complicated. The ongoing pressure shapes my days, my feelings, and my dreams. But it doesn't define me. I am more than the sum of my struggles. I keep moving forward, one small step at a time, hoping for light beyond the horizon. I don't even remember when the anxiety first crept in. Maybe it was the moment I realized my paycheck barely stretched to cover rent, or maybe it was later, when the credit card bills started piling up, whispering reminders that I was constantly behind, constantly catching up but never quite making it. Every month, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up just as I think I've found a pace I can manage. The bills, the rising rent, the groceries, they all climb faster than my paycheck ever could. And somewhere deep down, a small part of me knows this isn't going to get easier anytime soon. I'm 27 now. I have a decent job, enough to feel proud of, at least on paper. But the reality is that no matter how hard I work, no matter how many extra shifts I pick up or how tight I try to budget, the numbers don't add up in my favor. I see friends buying cars, traveling, even moving into new apartments, and I can't help but feel the sinking weight of being stuck. It's like everyone's running their own race, but I'm on this never-ending hamster wheel, moving so fast but going nowhere. My mornings start with a pit in my stomach. I scroll through my bank app like a ritual, hoping to see a better number than yesterday, but usually finding less. The rent is due next week. Utilities, groceries, phone bill, all the essentials that aren't really optional. I keep a spreadsheet, a painstakingly detailed budget where I try to predict every dollar I'll spend, but more often than not, reality scoffs at my careful planning. A broken washing machine, a sudden medical copay, a friend's birthday that I can't ignore, these small expenses pile up, and suddenly my budget feels like a cruel joke. I live in a small studio apartment, not by choice but because that's all I can afford. It's cramped, noisy, and sometimes lonely, but it's my little sanctuary. Even here, though, I feel the squeeze. Rent prices have climbed nearly 10% this year in my city, and my landlord's nonchalant about raising the rent again next month. When I brought up the possibility of negotiating, I was met with a polite but firm no. Market rates, he said. You're still paying less than new tenants. That phrase haunts me. Market rates, what market? It feels like the system is rigged, designed to keep people like me just barely afloat, never able to build real stability. I used to dream big. I thought I'd finish grad school, travel through Europe, maybe start a small business or buy a home by now. But those dreams feel like luxuries I can't afford anymore, not in time, not in money, not in energy. I postponed grad school because even part-time tuition seemed like a mountain I couldn't climb. I shelved travel plans indefinitely because saving for a plane ticket felt like a fantasy. The hope I once carried is dimmer now, replaced by this relentless need to survive day to day. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There are nights I lie awake, heart pounding, wondering if I'll ever break free from this cycle. I try to stay positive, to remind myself that this is just a phase, that if I keep grinding, something better will come. But hope can be fragile when every day feels like a test of how much pressure you can handle before cracking. I cope in little ways. I read books that transport me somewhere else. I binge-watch old shows because they're cheaper than going out. I cook meals at home, stretching every ingredient, and sometimes it's a creative challenge, making a few vegetables and rice taste like a feast. Occasionally, I treat myself to a coffee from a local cafe, a tiny indulgence that feels like a brief escape, even if it costs me a few dollars. I also lean on a small group of close friends. We swap advice, share resources, and remind each other we're not alone, even if our struggles look different. But there's also guilt. Guilt for not being able to help my family as much as I'd like, guilt for saying no to invitations because I can't afford them, guilt for feeling overwhelmed when I know others have it worse. It's a complicated mess of emotions that I'm still trying to untangle. The system feels like a trap. I pay taxes, contribute to Social Security, yet I feel like I'm getting nothing back. Healthcare costs, student loans, inflated housing prices, it's a web designed to keep people on edge, barely scraping by while the cost of living climbs relentlessly. And the worst part is that this pressure seeps into every decision: what job to take, what to spend money on, even who to be around. It's not just financial, it's emotional, mental, and sometimes physical. I'm scared sometimes that if I don't find a way out soon, I'll lose more than just money, I'll lose the spark that makes life worth living. But I also try to remind myself that I'm more than my bank balance. I still have dreams, even if they're on hold. I'm still learning, still growing. And maybe, just maybe, this struggle will make me stronger, more empathetic, and more determined. I want to believe that the system can change, that policies can shift to make life more affordable, more humane. Until then, I'll keep finding small ways to breathe, to hope, to survive. Because even when trapped, the human spirit has a stubborn way of reaching for light, no matter how dim it seems. This is my story, one of quiet struggle, persistent hope, and the daily reality of trying to live with dignity in a world that often feels designed to make that impossible. Sometimes, I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that just keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast I move, I'm stuck in the same spot, or worse, falling behind. That's what living with constant financial pressure feels like for me. I'm in my mid-20s, with a decent job that I worked hard to get, but somehow, it's never enough. The costs of everything around me keep climbing: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, yet my paycheck barely moves. It's exhausting, disheartening, and honestly, pretty lonely. Every morning, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest. Not because I hate my life or my job, but because I'm already thinking about the bills piling up, the unexpected expenses that might pop up, and the slim chances of saving anything for the future. I scroll through my banking app first thing, trying to convince myself there's a little cushion left, but the numbers stare back at me, cold and indifferent. Sometimes, I feel like the system itself is designed to keep me, and people like me, trapped in a loop where expenses outpace income, no matter what we do. Rent is the biggest weight on my shoulders. I live in a city where housing costs have exploded in the last few years. My apartment is small, more cramped than I'd like, but I pay a fortune for the privilege of having a roof over my head. I know friends who have moved farther out, sacrificing time and convenience just to afford a place to live. I've thought about it too, but the idea of spending hours each day commuting to work drains me before my day even starts. Plus, public transport isn't great here, and driving adds another expensive layer: gas, insurance, maintenance. I constantly juggle these expenses, trying to make sure everything gets covered. Food is another battlefield. I cook at home to save money, but even basic groceries have become surprisingly expensive. I've learned to budget with military precision, clipping coupons, watching sales, and adjusting meal plans on the fly. But sometimes, I skip meals or settle for less nutritious options just to stretch the budget, and I can feel it in my energy and mood. I'm tired all the time, and it's hard to stay motivated when your body isn't getting what it needs. Bills come in like clockwork: electricity, water, internet, and they're never friendly reminders, they're threats. I dread opening those emails or mail packets because I know the money needs to be taken from somewhere else to cover them. Sometimes, I have to borrow from friends or family just to get by, and that hits me harder than the financial crunch. I hate feeling like a burden. I'm supposed to be an independent adult, but it feels like I'm barely keeping my head above water. The emotional toll is something I didn't fully anticipate. When you're always worried about money, it's hard to relax or feel secure. Anxiety creeps in, sometimes subtly, sometimes overwhelming. I can't always sleep well because my mind races with what ifs. What if my car breaks down? What if there's a medical emergency? What if I lose my job? The uncertainty feels like a constant companion, lurking in the background of every decision. Social life is another casualty of this financial pressure. Going out with friends, traveling, or even just grabbing a coffee feels like a luxury I can't afford regularly. I've turned down invitations or suggested cheaper alternatives more times than I can count, which sometimes makes me feel isolated or like I'm missing out on important connections. There's this quiet shame that comes with saying no repeatedly, as if I'm somehow failing socially because of money. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I used to imagine traveling the world, going back to school for a master's degree, maybe even buying a small home someday. Those goals now seem distant, almost unreachable. Saving for emergencies feels like climbing a mountain with a backpack full of rocks. Every paycheck goes toward immediate needs, and by the time there's something left, it's barely enough to start saving, let alone invest in dreams. But I try to find little ways to cope. Writing helps me process these feelings, getting it all out without judgment. Sometimes I talk to close friends who understand or have been through similar struggles. Exercise is another outlet, even if it's just a short walk. It clears my head and reminds me I'm still in control of something, even if money isn't one of those things right now. I try to celebrate small wins, like making it through a month without debt or finding a way to cut an expense without feeling like I'm sacrificing too much. I remind myself that this phase is not forever, even if it feels endless at times. The economy and job market are unpredictable, but I keep looking for opportunities to improve my situation, whether it's picking up freelance gigs, applying for certifications, or just networking. It's slow progress, but it's progress. I've learned to be patient with myself and accept that setbacks don't define my worth or my future. At the core of it all, I'm still hopeful. Despite the pressure and the uncertainty, I hold on to the belief that someday I'll look back and see this time as a chapter, not the whole story. I want to believe in a future where I can breathe easier, where money isn't the constant source of stress, and where I can finally pursue those postponed dreams. For now, I keep moving forward, even if the treadmill speeds up again tomorrow. Because quitting isn't an option. This is my reality, messy, hard, sometimes lonely, but it's mine. And I'm trying, every day, to find my way through it. I wake up most mornings with this heavy knot in my chest before my feet even touch the floor. It's not just the tiredness or the lingering anxiety that's been gnawing at me. It's the pressure of knowing that the day ahead will demand decisions I never imagined I'd have to make so often. Things like whether I can afford groceries this week or if I should pay a utility bill now and risk the late fee on my phone bill later. It's like being caught in a slow, suffocating current that pulls you deeper, no matter how hard you paddle. I'm 27, working a full-time job that I care about, but no matter how many hours I put in, the numbers on my paycheck seem to shrink compared to the relentless rise of my expenses. Rent, utilities, transportation, groceries, student loans, everything is going up faster than my income, and the gap just keeps widening. I used to think if I just worked harder, maybe took an extra shift, things would balance out. But the truth is, I'm so exhausted that the thought of working more feels like another weight pressing down on me. Every month feels like a balancing act on a thin wire. I've become an expert at prioritizing bills, delaying payments, calling customer service for extensions, and sometimes just biting my tongue when friends suggest going out. The economic environment we live in isn't just a background noise, it's the very air I breathe. Prices for essentials keep climbing, but wages stagnate. I'm constantly reminded that I'm part of a system that's designed to move faster and ask more from me, but offers less in return. I remember not too long ago, dreaming about things that now seem like luxuries. Traveling to new places, buying my own home, even just saving for a decent emergency fund, those were the things I believed I'd have by now. Instead, I'm postponing everything. Every maybe someday feels heavier, like it's cemented to my feet. The hope I had as a kid, that hard work would pay off and life would get easier, feels almost naive now. There's a quiet loneliness in this struggle too. It's hard to explain to people who aren't in the same boat why I can't just make it work. The system is designed to keep people like me running in place, working harder for less security, less freedom, and less peace of mind. I watch social media, where friends share vacations, new gadgets, and life milestones, and I feel this pang of envy mixed with guilt. Why can't I be that person right now? Why am I stuck? Some days, the stress overwhelms me. I lie awake at night, heart racing, trying to imagine what my life will look like in 5, 10 years. Will I ever break free of this cycle? Or am I destined to keep making these impossible choices every single month? I worry about the future, about the unknown costs that might come up, the car breaking down, an unexpected medical bill, or worse. But then there are moments when I catch myself breathing a little easier, even if just for a second. I've learned to find small pockets of joy in things money can't buy: quiet mornings with a book borrowed from the library, a walk in the park, calls with friends who understand without judgment. I've developed a resilience I didn't know I had. Coping mechanisms, really, whether it's budgeting with a meticulous spreadsheet or just letting myself cry when it all feels like too much. I'm still holding on to my dreams, even if I've had to rearrange them. Maybe owning a home won't happen in my 20s like I once hoped, but I'm learning to be patient with myself. Maybe traveling won't happen next year, but maybe it will someday. I'm trying to believe in a future where the system doesn't feel like it's squeezing the life out of me. Where I can breathe, not just survive. The economic pressure doesn't just shape my bank account, it shapes my sense of self, my mental health, and the way I see the world. It teaches me harsh lessons about what it means to be young and struggling in today's economy. But it also teaches me grit, compassion, and the importance of holding on to hope, even when everything around me tells me to let go. I don't have all the answers. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding on. But telling my story, being honest about how hard it is, that's how I keep from feeling invisible in a system that tries to erase people like me. It's how I remind myself that my struggles are real, my dreams matter, and maybe, just maybe, there's a way forward. Because if there's one thing I've learned through this ongoing financial pressure, it's that hope is a kind of rebellion. And I'm still here, still hoping. I used to think adulthood would feel like finally getting the keys to my own life. Like all the small, hard things I did growing up, part-time jobs in high school, scholarships, late-night studying, would stack up into a kind of ticket to security. But I'm 27 now, and the only keys I hold feel like they unlock doors that cost too much to walk through. Rent went up again last month. My roommate, Nina, broke the news after dinner like she was afraid the words might break me too. We sat on our sagging futon in the living room, our plates still warm on our laps. "It's going to be another $150 more," she said, eyes flicking away. I felt it first in my stomach, like nausea, and then in my chest, tight and crawling. We already split everything as leanly as we can: groceries from the discount market, electricity only if absolutely necessary, our apartment is freezing in the winter, and no luxuries unless they're shared. We take turns buying toilet paper and cleaning supplies. We both work full-time, me at a nonprofit that does housing advocacy, ironic, I know, and her as a barista, and we both have side gigs just to keep afloat. When people say things like, "You just need to budget better," I want to laugh. As if I haven't memorized every number in my bank account. As if I haven't already given up on seeing the inside of a restaurant that doesn't ask if you want fries with that. My day starts at 6:30 a.m. I tutor English online to students in different time zones before my 9 to 5 begins. I do it in pajamas, hair pulled back, sipping coffee so weak it's practically water because coffee grounds are expensive and I can't afford to be generous with anything. After work, I sometimes do freelance editing, but those gigs are harder to find lately, everyone is cutting back. There's never a real break. If I take a day off, it means less income. If I get sick, I weigh whether I can afford the time to recover. My car has been making a strange knocking sound for a month now. I pretend not to hear it. I can't afford to know what's wrong. The pressure doesn't come all at once. It builds like steam behind a wall. It's forgetting to bring lunch and standing at the corner store calculating whether you can swing a $5 sandwich without bouncing your debit card. It's the slow panic that rises when a bill is higher than expected. It's the way your heart races when someone invites you out and you have to find a way to say no without admitting you literally can't afford one drink. I used to dream about grad school. I wanted to study urban planning, help design cities that made room for people like me, people who grew up just outside the promise of stability. But I can't justify the debt. Not when I'm still paying off my undergrad loans, $376 a month for the next 12 years, unless I manage to refinance, which feels like a fantasy. My dreams now are smaller. Less about changing the world, more about surviving it. Sometimes, I scroll through Instagram and it feels like everyone else cracked the code. They're traveling, buying homes, getting married in vineyards. I know it's curated, I work in communications, I know how to build a narrative, but it still gnaws at me. Why not me? Why does every step forward feel like it costs more than it's worth? My parents do what they can. They live 2 states away and they're not wealthy either. I don't tell them everything. I don't tell them about the night I cried on the kitchen floor after my debit card was declined at the pharmacy. I don't tell them how many nights I eat rice and eggs because it's all that's left. I don't want them to feel like they failed. Coping has become its own kind of skill. I keep a journal. I write bad poetry. Sometimes I walk for miles, just to feel like I'm moving forward, even if it's in a circle. Nina and I have a rule: 1 night a month, we buy the cheapest wine and play music way too loud and dance until we're breathless. It's not much, but it reminds us we're still here. Still alive. I've learned to find joy in scraps. A sunny day. A kind stranger. The way Nina makes me laugh until I can't breathe. I hold on to those moments like they're currency. Because in a world where everything costs more than it gives back, they feel like something free. I try not to let the bitterness take root. But some days, when I see yet another article blaming my generation for buying lattes instead of houses, I want to scream. I want to invite the author into my life for 1 week and see how they budget joy. I don't know what the future looks like. I still dream, sometimes. Of a stable home. Of not feeling like I'm one flat tire away from disaster. Of maybe, someday, getting that degree. But mostly, I just hope for breathing room. A little space to not be scared all the time. That would be enough. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I don't know when it stopped being just a rough patch and became my life. There wasn't a single breaking point, no dramatic moment of collapse. It was more like a slow, steady erosion. Like water grinding down a stone, small, constant, and quiet, until one day I looked up and everything felt worn thin. I'm 27. I live in a studio apartment that costs almost half my monthly income. It used to feel temporary, this shoebox with a leaky faucet and a fridge that hums like it's dying, but 3 years later, I'm still here, still telling myself it's just for now. The walls are thin enough that I can hear my neighbor coughing in the morning and watching TV until 2 a.m., but I've learned to sleep through most of it. Noise-canceling headphones were a luxury I justified as a mental health expense. I work 2 jobs. During the day, I'm an admin assistant at a logistics company. It's a lot of emails, spreadsheets, and trying to sound cheerful on calls with people who don't remember my name. At night, I do food delivery. I used to use a bike, but after my 3rd flat tire and a stolen seat, I gave up and started driving my 2009 Honda Civic, the car my dad gave me when he upgraded. It gets me by, but the maintenance bills are creeping up like everything else. Groceries feel like a game of triage. I walk through the aisles and mentally calculate every dollar. No, not this week for salmon. Maybe next week for oat milk if I skip lunch with coworkers. I eat a lot of rice, eggs, and frozen vegetables. Not because I love them, but because they don't go bad quickly and I can make them stretch. Sometimes, I miss being able to cook a meal just because it sounded good, not because it fit into a $40 weekly food budget. The weirdest part is how normal it's all become. I don't even flinch when my debit card balance dips below $20. I've mastered the art of waiting just long enough to pay a bill that it doesn't go to collections, but not so late that I get a shut-off notice. The economic environment isn't just a background hum, it's a weight I carry in my chest. Every choice, every plan, every moment of stillness is interrupted by this unrelenting math of survival. I have student loans. Not a mountain compared to some, about $24,000, but enough to feel like a boulder tied to my ankle. I pay the minimums, but interest eats up most of that anyway. I used to fantasize about paying them off early, about being debt-free by 30. Now I just hope they don't raise my monthly payment when the interest rate changes again. And then there's healthcare. I'm technically insured through my day job, but the deductible is so high that I avoid going to the doctor unless I absolutely have to. Last winter, I had a chest cold that turned into bronchitis. I went to urgent care after a week of stubborn wheezing and was hit with a $380 bill. That was my rent buffer for the month. Gone. Just like that. Emotionally, I'm tired. Not always sad, just worn. There's a low-level anxiety that never fully goes away. It buzzes in the background like the hum of fluorescent lights. I scroll through Instagram and see people my age traveling, buying homes, getting engaged. I'm genuinely happy for them. But then I close the app and stare at the ceiling and wonder if I'll ever have a life that feels like it's moving forward. I used to dream bigger. I went to college thinking I'd work in publishing, maybe become an editor one day. Books were always my escape. In school, I imagined a life surrounded by stories, by words that meant something. But after graduation, the only offers I got were unpaid internships in cities I couldn't afford to live in. So I pivoted. Told myself I'd find stability first and come back to writing later. Later keeps moving further away. There are still flickers of hope. Sometimes I write at night, when my shift ends and the world feels quiet enough to think. I have a folder of essays and half-finished stories on my laptop. Maybe I'll submit them somewhere. Maybe I won't. It's hard to believe in your own voice when you're just trying to stay afloat. Coping looks like small acts of resistance. Saying no to overtime when I can. Letting myself buy a $5 latte once a week because it makes me feel a little bit like the person I thought I'd become. Laughing with friends about our shared brokenness, because sometimes humor is all we have. Letting myself cry in the car after a long day, and then turning up the music so loud that I forget for a moment how heavy everything is. I know I'm not alone. Everyone I know is struggling, too. Some hide it better, or talk about it less. But we all live in this quiet, exhausting storm of not enough. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough of the life we thought we'd have by now. And still, we keep going. Because what else is there? Some nights, I look out my window and see the city lights stretching out, blinking in the dark like tiny promises. I don't know what the future holds. I'm scared of it, honestly. But I still want things. I want to write a book. I want to visit another country. I want to live somewhere with trees outside my window and enough space for a bookshelf. I haven't let go of those dreams. Not yet. I used to think adulthood would come with some kind of manual. Something that told you how to manage when your bank account keeps shrinking even though you're working more hours than ever. But no one tells you that even when you do everything right, the degree, the job, the side hustle, you can still feel like you're drowning with your nose just above the waterline. I'm 27. I live in a one-bedroom apartment that costs more than half my monthly income. It's not in a trendy part of the city. There's a gas station across the street that blasts music at 2 a.m. and a corner store where I buy discount bread that expires in 2 days. But it's what I can afford. Barely. Every morning I wake up to an alarm I snooze at least 3 times. Not because I'm lazy, but because the thought of facing another day where every decision feels like a calculation, where I'm constantly weighing cost versus necessity, makes it hard to get out of bed. Do I take the bus and save $3 or splurge on a $5 rideshare to be on time and not risk my job? Can I skip breakfast and stretch my groceries through the week? Should I cancel my therapy session because I can't afford the copay this month? This is what it feels like to live under constant financial pressure. It's not just about budgeting. It's about the invisible weight that presses down on you until your chest aches from the inside. It's about pretending you're okay while your phone buzzes with another overdraft warning. It's about the mental math you do every time a friend invites you out, trying to figure out how to say no without sounding like you're struggling. Again. I work full-time at a digital marketing agency. Entry-level, despite having 3 internships and a freelance portfolio that kept me up countless nights during college. I also take on freelance gigs, writing product descriptions, editing resumes, sometimes even ghostwriting blog posts for execs who'll never know my name. It adds up to 60-hour weeks for barely enough to cover rent, food, student loans, and utilities. I haven't had health insurance in months because when the premiums went up, I had to choose between that or keeping the lights on. My dream? I used to want to write for a living. Real writing. Novels, essays, stories that made people feel something. I imagined waking up early, making coffee, writing until noon, then walking to a little bookstore where I'd work part-time. I thought maybe by 30 I'd have a book out, maybe 2. I'd travel, nothing extravagant, just a train ride up the coast or a solo trip to a national park. But now I write for brands I'll never use, promoting products I can't afford. My stories sit in a Google Drive folder labeled Someday. That folder feels heavier than my student loan balance some days. Like a drawer filled with the person I wanted to be, buried under the weight of who I have to be to survive. Coping? I try. I journal. I walk, because it's free. I talk to my mom, who tells me I'm strong even when I don't feel like it. I have a friend who trades home-cooked meals for help with her resume. Barter has become our new currency. We laugh about it sometimes, over cheap wine and pasta, pretending we're just quirky and not desperate. But there are nights I lie awake with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is just how life is now. Not just for me, but for so many of us. The ones who were told to follow our dreams, get degrees, work hard, and yet still feel stuck in a loop where everything costs more than we can earn. And it's not just the bills. It's the constant erosion of hope. The knowing that if my car breaks down, if I get sick, if I lose one client, I have no safety net. That every good day is just a buffer for the next bad one. That the future feels more like a maze than a road, with each turn leading to another unexpected expense, another job rejection, another reminder that surviving has become the new thriving. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about a little house with a porch, or publishing a novel, or taking a vacation without guilt. Those dreams feel like old friends I had to stop calling because the distance became too painful. But I haven't let them go completely. They live somewhere deep in me, in that same quiet place where hope lingers when the math doesn't add up. I'm not looking for pity. I just want to be honest. Because this silent grind we're all in, it's real. And I think maybe if we talked about it more, if we stopped pretending we're all doing fine, we could build something better. Or at least feel a little less alone in it. I don't know what's next. But I know I'll keep going. Because what other choice do we have? I used to believe that if you worked hard and stayed smart with money, things would eventually fall into place. That's what my parents always told me, what they had to believe, I guess. But now, at 27, I'm not sure if that's true anymore. I live in a small studio apartment that costs more than half my paycheck. It's got peeling paint on the bathroom ceiling and a fridge that buzzes like it's trying to stay alive. But it's mine. Or rather, it's rented from a faceless property management company that hikes the rent every year like clockwork. I've thought about moving, but even the cheaper places cost more than what I make at my full-time job. I work as a customer service rep for a tech company, not one of the cool, high-paying ones, but one that outsources everything it can and pays just enough to keep people from quitting en masse. I make $19 an hour, no benefits beyond the bare minimum. I get 10 days off a year, including sick days. I had to take 3 unpaid days last month when I caught the flu. That alone set me back on rent. I used to have dreams that felt bigger than me. I wanted to be a writer, or maybe a therapist. Something where I could use my brain and heart and feel like I was building something that mattered. I even started college, but had to drop out halfway through my second year. The loans were piling up, and I couldn't justify the cost anymore, not when I was eating canned soup 5 nights a week and skipping the dentist for the 3rd year in a row. Now, my dreams are more like compromises. Maybe one day I can afford a car that doesn't need a new alternator every 6 months. Maybe I can save enough to move into a 1-bedroom. Maybe, if I'm lucky, I can pay off a credit card before I turn 30. Every day feels like a balancing act. I keep a spreadsheet that tracks every dollar: groceries, rent, utilities, gas, credit cards, student loans. There's a part of me that finds comfort in that control. But it also makes everything feel mechanical. Like I'm living in a math problem I can't solve. I've learned to say no to everything that costs money. Friends ask if I want to go out to eat, I make excuses. My cousin's wedding is in another state next month, and I had to tell her I couldn't make it. I didn't say it's because I can't afford the flight, the hotel, and a gift. I just said work wouldn't let me take the time. Sometimes I wonder if this is what adulthood is now. Scraping by, hoping nothing breaks, smiling at people and saying I'm good when they ask how I am, even when my chest feels tight from the anxiety of another overdraft warning. My checking account hit negative twice last year. The overdraft fees alone were enough to wipe out the grocery budget for a week. The worst part is the shame. There's a deep, quiet shame that hums under everything, like I must have done something wrong to end up here. Like I missed a step that everyone else understood. I scroll through social media and see people traveling, buying homes, posting engagement photos with perfect lighting. And I feel like a ghost in comparison. I exist, but barely. Therapy would help, I think. But that's another $150 a session. So instead I vent to a coworker during smoke breaks. I don't even smoke, I just need the breath. She gets it. She's 34, raising a kid alone, and still can't afford health insurance. Sometimes we joke about robbing a bank. It's a dark joke, but laughing feels better than crying. I cope in little ways. I read a lot, library books mostly, because they're free. I write in a journal when I can. I take long walks at night, when the city is quieter and it feels like I can breathe. Those moments don't solve anything, but they remind me I'm still here. Still trying. I postponed the idea of having a family. I used to think I'd have a couple kids by now. But how can I raise a child when I can't even afford a cavity filling? I don't want to pass this anxiety on to someone else. It's too heavy. And yet, some tiny part of me refuses to give up. I still write, late at night sometimes, when I can't sleep. I dream about a life where I don't have to check my bank app 5 times a day. Where I can go to the doctor without calculating what else I'll have to give up that month. Where I can breathe without guilt. This economy feels like a trap. Costs rise, but wages stay the same. Everything from groceries to rent to public transportation inches up while I stay still, working harder than ever just to stay afloat. They call us the working poor, but that word, *working*, feels cruel. It implies movement, progress. But I've been running in place for years. I don't know what the answer is. Sometimes I think I just need one lucky break, a better job, a small windfall, someone to take a chance on me. Other times I wonder if this is just it, forever. But for now, I keep waking up, pouring coffee into the chipped mug I bought at a thrift store, and logging into work. I smile for customers I'll never meet, answer questions they barely listen to, and hope I make it through another month without anything else breaking. That's my life right now. Not glamorous, not tragic. Just, stuck. And trying. I wake up every morning to the same internal tug of war. Do I check my bank account before brushing my teeth, or do I pretend, for just a few more minutes, that everything is fine? Usually, I check. Usually, it ruins my morning. I'm 27, and I live in a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that's just affordable enough to feel like I'm not drowning, but expensive enough that I still feel the water inching up my neck. Rent is $1 for $30 a month. I make $3,200 before taxes working as a customer support lead at a tech company that loves to throw around words like agile and innovative but can't afford to bump our salaries even when inflation hits us like a truck. Most months, I do the math out loud. I sit at my desk with a notebook I call the damage log and write down everything I owe: rent, electricity, internet, phone, groceries, student loans, gas, and now, because my car decided to betray me, monthly payments for repairs I had to put on a credit card. Each line feels heavier than the last. My handwriting gets worse as I go. After taxes, I take home around $2 for $80. My fixed costs? Around $300. That leaves me with maybe $180 to stretch across 30 days. That's before anything goes wrong, like getting sick and needing cold medicine, or a friend's birthday dinner I can't afford but attend anyway because the alternative is isolation. Or, God forbid, a parking ticket. I wasn't always like this. I used to have dreams. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I studied it in college, naively, maybe. But I loved telling stories, capturing moments, piecing together human truths. I still have my camera. It sits on the top shelf of my closet, next to the box where I keep old concert tickets and a worn-out journal from college. Sometimes I take it out and hold it. Sometimes I think about selling it. There are days when I feel like I'm suffocating under invisible weight. Not because I don't work hard, I do. Not because I'm careless, I track every cent. But because the system I'm living in was not designed for people like me to get ahead. Every year, rent increases. Groceries go up. Gas. Health insurance. Everything except my paycheck. I remember reading some article that said millennials and Gen Z are less likely to own homes or retire comfortably. It framed it like a generational quirk, like we're just too into avocado toast. But I don't buy coffee out anymore. I haven't gone on a vacation in 4 years. The last movie I saw in a theater was before the pandemic. I stream stuff now, only because I'm on a shared Netflix account with my cousin. I've become really good at pretending. I laugh when my coworkers talk about their Airbnbs and weekend getaways. I nod when someone suggests grabbing drinks after work, even though I know I'll have to decline later with some vague excuse about being tired. It's easier than saying, I can't afford a $12 cocktail tonight because I'm $86 away from zero and payday's still 10 days out. The emotional toll is the part no one talks about enough. It's not just anxiety, it's shame. The kind that lives in your stomach and colors how you see yourself. I used to think I was capable, talented, full of potential. Now I wonder if I'm just surviving. And some days, I don't even know if I'm doing that well. My coping mechanisms are simple, and not always healthy. I walk. A lot. I find routes through the city where I can forget I'm broke, parks with good trees, side streets with murals. I journal, when I can muster the energy. I delete shopping apps off my phone the second I feel tempted. And I talk to my mom on the phone once a week, even though I lie about how things are going. She doesn't need to worry. The worst part is what I've had to postpone, dreams that used to feel like steps on a path, now just flickers of who I used to be. I wanted to direct a short film before I turned 30. That's next year. I wanted to travel to Japan, to see cherry blossoms and visit the Studio Ghibli Museum. I wanted to fall in love without money looming over everything like a silent, third party at the table. Now my dreams have become smaller, quieter. Pay off one credit card. Save enough for a dental cleaning. Maybe, if I'm lucky, take a day off without guilt. Some nights, I lie in bed and imagine a different version of me. One who doesn't flinch every time their phone buzzes with a bank notification. One who wakes up excited for the day, not scared of it. One who can order food without immediately calculating the damage. That version of me feels far away, like a character in one of the films I used to imagine making. But I still hope. Maybe stubbornly. Maybe foolishly. I hope something changes. I hope I find a way forward. I hope that someday I'll look back on this part of my life and feel proud that I kept going, even when everything told me to stop. Until then, I'll keep budgeting. I'll keep walking. I'll keep dreaming, even if it's just for a few minutes a day. Because that's the only thing I haven't let the system take from me yet. I used to think adulthood would feel like freedom, like I'd finally be in control of my life. But somewhere between graduating college and working 2 part-time jobs that barely pay the rent, it started to feel more like treading water with no land in sight. My name's Danny. I'm 27, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with peeling paint in a city that never stops getting more expensive. I majored in graphic design, graduated during the tail end of the pandemic, just as the economy began convulsing again. I've been freelancing ever since, picking up temp gigs here and there, and working as a barista 3 days a week. I keep telling myself it's temporary, but it's been 3 years. Every day, I do math. Not the good kind, the kind that gnaws at you. I calculate how much I can spend on groceries this week, $43.21, whether I can afford to go to my friend's birthday dinner, probably not, and whether I should risk skipping another dental cleaning, yes, again. I wake up thinking about money and go to sleep wondering what happens if my laptop breaks or if my car finally gives out for good. The worst part isn't the math itself, it's the feeling that no matter how careful I am, I'm always one step behind. Rent went up again this year. My landlord didn't even repaint or fix the drafty window that lets cold air pour in during winter. He just emailed me with a new lease and a $150 monthly increase like it was a weather report. "This is just what the market looks like now," he said when I called. What market? I keep wondering. One I apparently can't afford to live in. I eat a lot of pasta, rice, frozen vegetables. I started buying 1 roll of toilet paper at a time because the big packs are too expensive up front. My shoes have holes in them. I've stopped buying clothes unless something's completely worn through. Thrift stores used to be my go-to, but even those are getting pricier. And forget anything like a vacation, I haven't left the city in over 2 years. The idea of flying somewhere feels almost fantastical, like a dream from another life. It messes with your head. I try not to compare myself to friends, but it's hard. Some of them are buying homes, getting married, taking trips to Europe. Others have moved back in with their parents to save money, a luxury I don't have. My family isn't in a position to help. They did what they could when I was in school, but they've got their own struggles now. I don't blame them, but sometimes I feel quietly envious of people who have that safety net. Mine is more like a rope that's already frayed at the ends. Sometimes I sit at my desk and look at the sketchbook stacked on the shelf. There was a time when I wanted to design album covers, work with musicians, maybe even start my own studio. I used to have dreams, loud, unruly ones. Now, my dreams have become small, bite-sized, manageable. Maybe next year I can take a week off. Maybe I can afford therapy again. Maybe I won't need to use my credit card for groceries this month. I still create when I can. I stay up late sometimes, drawing just to remember that I still can. Art is one of the only things that keeps me grounded. That, and my cat, Juniper. She's a stray I found outside the cafe last fall. I wasn't sure I could afford to keep her, but I did. I ration things more carefully now so I can afford her food and vet visits. Her quiet presence reminds me I'm not alone, even when I feel like I'm slowly disappearing into the cracks. Coping is messy. Some days I power through with to-do lists and cheap coffee and playlists that make me feel like I still have momentum. Other days, I just lie in bed and scroll through my phone, staring blankly at other people's lives. I've unfollowed a lot of influencers. I couldn't handle the curated images of brunches, new outfits, glowing apartments with houseplants I can't afford to keep alive. It's not jealousy exactly. It's more like grief. Like mourning the version of myself I thought I'd get to be by now. I'm tired. Not just physically, though that too, but tired in a way that feels woven into my bones. Tired of pretending I'm doing fine when someone asks. Tired of saying maybe next time when friends want to hang out somewhere that costs more than I can quietly cover. Tired of applying to full-time design jobs that never call back, or send a rejection 2 months later, addressed to "Dear applicant." Still, something in me keeps going. Maybe it's stubbornness, maybe it's hope. I try to find small joys, a sunset on my walk home, a book from the library that makes me forget for a little while, a good song that syncs perfectly with the rhythm of the train. I remind myself that surviving like this is not a failure, even when it feels like it. That the system is designed to make people like me feel like we're always falling short. If I could talk to my younger self, the one who dreamed big and believed hard, I'd tell her, "You're not broken. You're living through a time that asks too much of you and gives too little in return. It's okay to feel weary. It's okay to grieve. But don't give up. I still believe things can get better. I have to. Otherwise, what's the point?" Some days, I feel like I'm standing at the bottom of a well, watching the sky shrink further away with every month that passes. Rent rises. Groceries get pricier. My student loans loom like some silent predator waiting for a moment of weakness. And my paycheck? It might as well be a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much effort I pour in, it never seems to fill the gap. I'm 27, and I live in a small studio in a city I used to love. It's the kind of place where everyone's hustling, creating, reaching for something. At least that's what we told ourselves during college. I stayed because this city had energy, promise. But these days, it feels more like a treadmill turned up too high. You either keep running or fall flat on your face. My job, project coordinator for a nonprofit, is meaningful, in theory. We do good work. But the salary hasn't kept pace with the cost of simply existing. I bring in $2,850 a month after taxes. Rent takes $1,400. Health insurance, student loans, transit, and groceries eat up nearly everything else. That's before anything goes wrong, before I need a new tire or get sick or my laptop crashes. I've become hyper-aware of every dollar. Grocery shopping is a mental math gauntlet. I keep tabs on prices like a day trader watching the stock market. Oatmeal instead of cereal. Beans and rice instead of chicken. If I treat myself to a $4 coffee, I feel it like a bruise on my conscience. Going out with friends means ordering the cheapest thing and pretending I'm not hungry. And it's not just the money, it's the constant calculation, the never-ending vigilance. It's exhausting. Every choice feels loaded. I skip dental checkups because I can't afford the copay. I haven't visited my parents in almost 2 years because flights are too expensive. I can't count how many social invitations I've declined with vague excuses because the real reason is, I just don't have the spare cash. I never thought it would feel like this. I was a good student. Graduated with honors. I was told if I worked hard, made the right choices, I'd be okay. But the rules changed, or maybe they were always rigged and I just didn't notice. Either way, I'm left navigating a reality where my dreams have been reclassified as luxuries. I used to imagine I'd travel the world. Backpack through Southeast Asia. Volunteer abroad. Maybe even get a master's degree. I wanted to write a novel, maybe, or essays about culture and belonging. But now, those ideas feel absurd. Who has time to write when you're constantly chasing hours to freelance, to side hustle, to pick up shifts? My coping mechanisms are makeshift, but they keep me afloat. I journal a lot. Mostly late at night, when the ache behind my eyes won't let me sleep. I walk, sometimes for hours, because it's free and lets me feel a little less caged. I call my sister when it gets really bad. She's juggling her own mess, but we try to remind each other we're not alone in this. Some nights I scroll through job listings, hoping to find something that pays more and doesn't kill my soul. I've sent out dozens of applications this year. Most don't respond. A few interviews ended in rejections, or offers that paid barely more than what I make now, just dressed up in tech office buzzwords and unlimited PTO. Still, I try to keep a small flame of hope alive. I have to. I remind myself that resilience is a kind of rebellion. That dreaming, even in the face of scarcity, is an act of defiance. I haven't given up, I'm just paused. Temporarily parked in a version of life I didn't plan for. I still want to write. I still want to see the world. But I've had to accept that later is the new currency of my ambition. I think what hurts the most is not the struggle itself, but how invisible it is. From the outside, I look okay. I dress well enough. Smile often enough. I've learned to camouflage my stress so people don't see how close to the edge I feel some days. There's a kind of loneliness in that, in knowing how many of us are quietly drowning while pretending to swim. But I'm not ashamed anymore. Not like I used to be. I'm doing the best I can in a system that makes survival feel like a full-time job. And I know I'm not alone. I see it in the tired eyes of my barista who works 2 jobs. In the resigned tone of my friend who moved back in with her parents at 30. In the online communities where strangers share tips on how to stretch $1 into a week's worth of meals. This isn't what we were promised, but it's real. And maybe if more of us say it out loud, something will shift. Maybe our stories can become more than just symptoms, they can be sparks. So I keep going. I keep walking. I keep writing. Even if it's just in the margins of my day. Even if it's just for me, for now. There's a moment every morning, just before my eyes open, when I forget how hard things are. It lasts maybe 3 seconds, just long enough for a breath, before the weight of it all settles back onto my chest. The rent due in 10 days. The overdraft fees. The unopened student loan emails. The second job I started last month that hasn't helped as much as I'd hoped. My name's Cass, I'm 27, and I live in a small 1-bedroom apartment just outside the city. It's not much. The building smells like old carpet and burnt toast, and the walls are thin enough that I can hear my neighbor coughing through the night. Still, it's mine. I tell myself that every day, like a mantra. It's mine. But even that is tenuous, rent goes up every year, and my paycheck doesn't. I work full-time as a customer service rep at a telecom company. It's a job. It pays the bills, barely, and it drains something from me every day. I used to think I'd only stay for a year or 2. Get some experience, move on to something better. That was 5 years ago. Since then, the economy's only gotten harder, and the better I was hoping for keeps slipping further out of reach. Most weeks I'm scraping by on cereal, instant noodles, and the occasional $5 rotisserie chicken from the grocery store. I keep a spreadsheet of every expense, down to the dollar. Even then, things fall through the cracks, like when my car battery died last month. I cried in the parking lot of the AutoZone because I knew what that meant, choosing between buying the battery or making rent on time. I bought the battery. I needed the car to get to work. Rent came 3 days late, and my landlord tacked on a $75 late fee. It's this constant juggling act, and I'm always one misstep away from dropping everything. What gets me isn't just the math, it's how tired I always am. Exhaustion clings to me like a second skin. I take on extra shifts at the coffee shop down the street, but that means less sleep, less time to breathe, less time to be anything other than a body in motion, chasing enough. Sometimes, I think about how much of my life is spent managing poverty, as if it's a full-time job in itself. Coupon clipping. Calling utility companies to ask for extensions. Skipping prescriptions. Saying no to outings with friends because I can't afford drinks or an Uber home. Watching everyone else move forward while I feel like I'm stuck in this loop. Wake up, work, eat cheap, worry, sleep, repeat. I see friends on social media going on trips, getting married, buying homes, and I feel like I'm being left behind in a world that doesn't want to make room for people like me. It's not jealousy, exactly. It's more like grief. A quiet morning for the life I thought I'd have. I used to dream big. I went to college thinking I'd end up in publishing, writing essays that would change minds or editing books that mattered. But after graduating into a job market that offered unpaid internships and exposure instead of salaries, I took the first job that would pay. And then I took another. And another. The dream didn't die all at once, it eroded, piece by piece, until one day I realized I hadn't written a single paragraph in over a year. I still write sometimes, late at night when the world feels quieter. It helps me remember who I am outside of the hustle. But even that's harder lately. When your brain is always in survival mode, creativity feels like a luxury you can't afford. I try to find joy in small things. A cup of coffee I don't have to make. A call from my sister. A book from the library. A walk when the sun is out and the air feels clean. These moments don't fix anything, but they remind me I'm still here, still trying. That has to count for something, right? I don't have a 5-year plan anymore. I have a 5-day plan, make it to Friday. Don't overdraft. Answer emails. Show up. Repeat. Still, there are days when I let myself imagine more. Maybe I go back to school someday. Maybe I publish something. Maybe I find a job that doesn't leave me so hollow. I don't know. The truth is, I'm afraid to hope too much. Hope costs energy, and some days I can't spare it. But I keep going. That's the part no one tells you about when you're struggling, not just the logistics, but the emotional toll of carrying your own future in your hands, knowing the system is rigged against you. It's not just hard. It's lonely. It's disorienting. It's walking through life with a weight no one else seems to notice unless you name it out loud, and even then, some people look at you like you're the problem. I'm not lazy. I'm not irresponsible. I'm not unmotivated. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of pretending that working 2 jobs is normal, that living paycheck to paycheck is just part of being young. It shouldn't be. But for now, this is my life. And I'm trying, really trying, to believe that surviving counts for something. That maybe, just maybe, there's still time for me to build the kind of life I used to dream about. Even if I have to build it from scratch. It's strange how money feels like both a lifeline and a noose at the same time. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, the pressure around money has been this constant, quiet weight on my chest. Some days it's barely noticeable, just a dull ache in the background. But most days, it feels like I'm drowning, like the surface is just out of reach, no matter how hard I kick. I grew up thinking that if you worked hard, you'd get ahead. My parents always said, just keep your head down, save a little, and someday things will be easier. But here I am, years into adulthood, and every paycheck is swallowed up almost instantly. Rent goes up again this year, of course it does, groceries cost more, utility bills climb. I see the numbers on my bank app shrinking faster than they ever did before. And the wages? They barely budge. The gap between what I earn and what I owe feels like it's widening every single month. Some mornings, I wake up with this pit in my stomach. It's not even fear exactly, more like a slow-burning exhaustion. I'm tired of scrambling, tired of making spreadsheets and budgets that barely leave room for breathing. I skip breakfast more often than not because I don't want to spend on food until I absolutely have to. I take the bus instead of rideshares, even if it means being late sometimes. I've turned down invitations from friends because going out means spending money I can't really afford to lose. It's lonely, too. I feel like nobody really sees it, the way I constantly calculate every dollar before I spend it. They don't see how I sometimes lie awake at night, running through the bills again and again, wondering if there's some miracle I missed. I'm exhausted, and part of me feels ashamed that I can't keep up. It's like living under a microscope where every mistake, every unpaid or late bill, feels like a personal failure instead of a symptom of this larger system that's rigged against people like me. I think about the system a lot. The economy feels like this giant machine that's spinning faster and faster, but I'm stuck on a treadmill going the other way. Inflation outpaces my raises, rent spikes even when my landlord says it's just a small increase. Healthcare costs loom over me like a storm cloud, too big to ignore but impossible to fully prepare for. I'm constantly juggling, trying to cover essentials while still saving a little for emergencies, which, ironically, are the moments that always seem to come crashing in unexpectedly. The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. It's not just that money is tight, it's that I don't see a way out. Every time I think I might be getting ahead, another expense rises, a new unexpected bill hits, or the job market shifts and suddenly my skills don't feel as valuable. I've been passed over for promotions, told I'm overqualified or too expensive for other roles. It's like the deck is stacked so heavily against people like me that even trying to improve feels futile. And yet, somehow, I keep going. I find ways to cope because giving up isn't an option. I talk to my close friends, even if only rarely, because isolation makes everything feel worse. I try to find small joys, a walk in the park, a free concert online, cooking a meal from scratch instead of ordering takeout. I read about personal finance, trying to learn every trick and tip I can. I set aside tiny bits of money for the future, even if it's just $5 a week. It's a slow grind, but it's something. Sometimes I dream. I dream of owning a home someday, a place that's mine, where I don't have to worry about rent increases or noisy neighbors or suddenly being priced out. I dream about traveling, about seeing places that aren't just in my head or on a screen. I dream about a career that not only pays the bills but also makes me feel valued and excited to go to work. But those dreams feel far away, like distant stars on the horizon. I've had to postpone a lot of things, buying a car, saving for a real emergency fund, even dating. I don't have the energy to explain my financial situation to someone new, and I don't want to be the person who always says no to plans. It's hard because it feels like my life is on pause, waiting for a break that might never come. Sometimes I wonder what it would take to break free from this cycle. Would I need to move to a cheaper city? Get an additional job? Learn new skills and hope for the best? The uncertainty is exhausting. But I remind myself that this pressure isn't just mine to bear alone, so many people I know feel it too, even if we don't talk about it. This story isn't just about numbers or bills. It's about the constant push and pull between hope and despair, the quiet fear that the system is built in a way that's impossible to win, and the stubborn resilience that keeps me moving forward anyway. I'm tired, yes. But I'm not ready to give up on myself or my future. I don't know what's next. But for now, I keep making those tiny decisions, day by day, paycheck by paycheck, holding on to the hope that one day, the weight will lift, even if just a little. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.